A lot of golf fans may not have been familiar with the name Jacob Bridgeman until this past weekend. At the time of recording this video, he's just after earning his first PGA Tour victory and did so in a pretty impressive style. Took down Rory McIlroy in a head-to-head battle in the final pairing on Sunday to receive the winner's congratulatory handshake from none other than tournament hosts at Riviera, Tiger Woods. So he'd already been quite an established player by this point, played some great golf, particularly last year, earned himself a spot into the FedEx Cup finals, and earlier this year as well had received the mail that every golfer wants to get when he opened up his letterbox and seen that he had got his invite to play at Augusta. So played some great golf, particularly in the last couple of events. The week prior, he was contending at Pebble Beach when Colin Morikawa got the job done. But I want to talk you through his swing in depth in a full swing analysis today and talk you through some of the unique pieces that are in there and perhaps some pieces that you may look to try and copy and implement into your own swing. So as we get stuck into things here, let me first, before I go into too much detail, play his swing on in full flow for you. Now, as we have a look at some key checkpoints in his setup position, there's quite a few talking points here. And the most interesting really is just that there is a considerable difference when we look at his upper compared to his lower half alignment. His trail shoulder is protracted forward, which configures his forearms to sit a little bit open, or quite a bit open here for this shot at least. We can see that his left forearm is got a little bit of it visible below that of his right, which once we see that straight away, we're going to see the shoulders want to sit open as well. And that is in contrast to what we see from his lower half. So we can see his stance line is quite closed, and we can also see that the direction of his knees are also closed. We can see the left is above the right here, in contrast to that structure of the forearms where the left sits below the right. So interesting here to look at. This just goes to show that alignment isn't the be-all and end-all in terms of a player needing to be perfectly square with everything. When it comes to figuring out what the perfect way to stance at a golf ball is to suit your needs from an alignment perspective, it's really important that you do exactly what Jacob Bridgeman has clearly done here, and that is that he has found what his windows of acceptability are in terms of alignment with each body segments. Each part of the body will have, let's call it a tolerance in terms of how far left or right it can aim before it starts to negatively affect how that club works around the body. So as I say, find out what suits you. There is no one size fits all when it comes to what alignment it should look like. When we bring Jacob Bridgeman to climb to the top of his backswing, just as we get him to the top before he starts to transition down, we can see his trail shoulder is sitting in external rotation. And we can tell that by easily just looking at the structure of his trail forearm here. We can see just how upright that forearm gets. Now, we can see his lead arm sits a little bit higher than his shoulder plane here. And we can see some bow or some flexion to that lead wrist here. That then throws his club face into a strong position at the top here. So in terms of how his lead wrist and his club face are operating at this point here, this might draw some comparisons in some people's minds to that of a Victor Hovland or a Dustin Johnson. And when someone has this strength to their club face at the top of the backswing and they're at an elite level, there is certainly a prediction of what's going to happen from here. If they were to have a more, I don't want to say a lack of rotation, but if they're, when you look at the tour players and you'll look through my channel and you'll see some guys are more rotated by impact than others. People who have a strong club face at the top, there is a requirement if they're going to have a functional ball flight that they'll need to have an awful lot of rotation as they come through the ball. Typically that can be accompanied with a lot of side bend as well, which is, all things being equal, something that's going to stabilize and even open up the club face. As we play Jacob on through the strike here, I want to pause him at this moment in time where we can't see through his body, but roughly we're looking at about trail arm being level to the ground in the follow through here. Now, I'm well aware he just won this past weekend and phenomenal golfer, that goes without saying, but when we're looking to build a golf swing, it's important that we cater to maximizing performance on the course, but also that we take into consideration injury prevention. This position, more so perhaps than any other point in the swing, warrants an in-depth discussion, and as I'm talking through this, I want to bring in a comparison picture comparing Jacob Bridgeman to that of his playing partner Rory McIlroy from the final group last night here. Now you can see just how much more side bends is evident here when we look at Jacob Bridgman. We can see just how steep his shoulder plane is. And we did talk about how at the top of the backswing, he's got a very closed club face, which then requires that to be followed up with a downswing and a move through the golf ball that experiences a lot of side bend and a lot of rotation to try and get that club face back into a functional spot by the time it reaches impact. But in saying that, there is a healthy range of motion for each joint to work through, and that for the lumbar spine is about 30 degrees. If I try to roughly sketch in and give you a number for what he's at here, just using the analysis tool on my coaching app here, we can see thereabouts, that's what he's at there, 52 degrees. Now he's a long way outside of that healthy range of motion, and we can see as he moves through the golf swing here, we can see just how much he drops his height and side bends coming through the shot. I am concerned when I see someone's right ear get this close to their pelvis as they come through the golf ball, and I can't help but think of someone like a Will Zalatoris when I see this position. Now, I'd be purely speculating as to exactly what gave Will Zalatoris his back injury. I'm not part of his team. I don't have any inside information, and it may have been unrelated to his golf swing altogether. But as I say, there is a healthy range of motion in terms of how much someone should be side bending, and there is certainly similarities between himself and Will Zalatoris. Will Zalatoris, if you're struggling to put a face to the name, he was Happy Gilmore's caddy in the latest movie. Phenomenal player, has unfortunately had to go in for surgery and has had a lot of back issues. But this position here, it causes me concern as a golf coach. If this was a junior golfer coming to me on the lesson tee and they had these positions, despite how well they're hitting the golf ball, I would be looking to at least, starting off, subtly reduce how much they are side bending through the ball, with an eye on maximizing performance as well as looking into catering towards injury prevention, thinking further down the road. Now, he may never get injured. There's legends of the game who have played from similar positions with a lot of rotation and side bends coupled together. But when I think of, let's say, Lee Trevino comes to mind from back in the day, but when we look at this new generation of player on the tour, they're adding so much speed, they're only getting faster and faster, and as they pump more and more clubhead speed into a swing that has pieces in there that have joints working outside of a healthy range of motion, potentially we're going to get injuries to the lower back. Now, I'm not trying to give him advice. I'm sure he's got an expert team around him. But when we contrast that to, say, the position that Rory McIlroy is in as he comes through the ball, his spine, to me, looks like it's in a much safer, healthier position. And when we think of Rory's longevity that he's had throughout his career, the only time that I can recall off the top of my head that he's had an injury was from playing football with his mates when he had a five-a-side game leading up to a title defence of the Open, and he got hurt through there. So certainly not anything that was related to his golf swing. So am I trying to suggest for 1 second that he should save this video and come back to it later today when he's practicing at the range to try and be more like Rory with his technique, who he's just beat this past weekend? Of course not. This video is purely for educational purposes for anyone watching, that hopefully they can garner a few valuable insights, whether they're a professional or an amateur watching this. If you're an amateur golfer and you're coming off your 18 holes round of golf at the weekend and your lower back is screaming at you, there's a good chance that potentially it could be your golf swing that's the issue. 100% I would recommend that you seek medical professional advice before consulting your golf coach. But if you're working with a golf coach, you're much better off finding a golf coach who has a good understanding of the anatomy, because there is easier and harder ways to swing the golf club on the body. There's not necessarily a correct and incorrect way to swing the golf club. As we see, there's no two swings on tour that are the same. But if you work with a golf coach and they have your joints operating within a healthy range of motion, oftentimes usually is the case where what's good for the body is going to be good for your performance on the course. So make sure that you're very diligent with doing your homework on researching what coach that you're going to work with. If you're looking to make a change in your professional watching this, you got to be so careful. That goes without saying. You're playing for your livelihood. You got to be very careful with what change you look to make, if any. There's rarely a case where a golf pro isn't trying to get better, so it's not as if guys out there stand still because they know that really that would have them going backwards when their peers are trying to progress on a daily basis. But you've got to be very careful if you're changing anything in your technique, particularly if you're looking to change a move that you've had for pretty much the bulk of your entire career. So to conclude this full swing analysis here today on Jacob Bridgeman, I would like to congratulate him on a fantastic win. What a way to earn your first victory on the PGA Tour, fending off a challenge from Rory McIlroy. And also Kurt Kitayama, it must be mentioned, he had a fantastic final round as well. 7 under on Sunday, which pushed him all the way as well and had him tied in second place with Rory. But fantastic win, and who else better to congratulate you as you come back off the 72nd hole other than Tiger Woods. So hopefully he can use this as a springboard, as a huge confidence builder to kick on and get his hands on plenty more trophies in the years to come.
If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. It really helps with the growth of the channel, but it also just ensures that you won't miss out on any future content coming from myself here on the channel, of which there's plenty lined up to be released very shortly. For any golfer who has stayed until the end of a lengthy video like this, which is quite detailed, orientated, and very heavy on the educational side of things when it comes to the golf swing, you strike me as someone who is serious about learning and serious about finding ways to improve their own golf. If that is the case, then you can reach out and connect with myself today, regardless of where you are in the world. My name is Seán Marks. I'm a PGA professional and I specialize in teaching the full swing, and I help golfers worldwide through an app called Skillest that I use for my online coaching, help players reach their full potential tee to green. The online program that I run on Skillest that helps people of all ages and all skill levels reach their full potential tee to green is called the Long Game Transformation Program. The minimum commitment for this program for students looking to sign up is that of a 3-month period. Often is the case where students want to continue on long beyond this point because they've seen the value in it, their game has seen the improvements, and they want to continue to push the boundaries and see what's possible. But let's say that you only wanted to sign up for the first 3 months. Here is exactly what I can promise you will learn. You will learn the 3 fundamentals required to completely transform your long game, and that is strike, direction, and distance. The first, in strike, you need the ability to control your low points. Second of all, when we touch on direction, you need to be able to have a predictable curve and a consistent shot shape that you can rely on out on the course. And third is distance. You need to be able to know how to pump enough distance into your game to be competitive at the level of this sport that you desire to play at. This program is designed to give you as much support as you need. There's nothing pre-recorded. Everything is personalized to the individual. There's open communication channels that you can message me whenever you want. Anytime you have a question, you can message me. There's unlimited feedback on the program. And if you're ever in doubt as to whether you're doing a drill correctly or whatever the case may be, you can message me and get feedback within a turnaround time of never any more than 24 hours. If you're ready to start improving today, I will leave a link underneath the video in the description box where you can download Skillest. Alternatively, you can search for it on the App Store and get started on your improvement journey today. If you want in-person coaching with myself in Ireland, I also work with players based in Ireland online, but if you'd like in-person coaching, you can see my booking diary on my website, seanmarksgolf.com. So I look forward to seeing you, whether it's in person or remotely online, very soon.